Hey everybody, Jeff Antoniuk here, digging deeper jazz videos. And today I want to talk about the 2-5-1 progression. Now, of course, this is going to be for all instruments. This is going to apply to anybody that's comping, any single line instruments, vocalists, etc., etc. Now, I've done, almost 50 of these videos now and haven't done one specifically on the 2-5-1. And I thought it would be a great idea using sort of the approach that I like to use that so many of you are appreciating. Thank you for that. To sort of dig into this 2-5-1 progression. Part of it is I think there will be some very valuable information here for a lot of folks. But the next video I do, number 49, is going to be on minor 2-5s. And I know for a fact that a whole lot of people don't know quite what's up or how to approach minor 2-5s. We're going to do our approach on major 2-5s today and expand it next time. So, we have to play these things all the time, right? This is, I call it like jazz DNA. Everything is built out of these 2-5-1 progressions. And I know there's a lot of people that kind of understand it, but aren't really playing it. I've run into people that can play it, but don't really understand why it works the way it works, and certainly wouldn't be able to explain it to somebody else or to teach it to somebody else. So I like the idea of us knowing something so well, we could actually do a decent job of teaching it to somebody, whether or not we're a teacher. And and at the end of the day, I want us all to be able to play this material. So that's where we're going to jump in here. So let me put this sheet up on the screen for you and sort of break down why 2-5-1 progressions at all. Why are they the chord qualities they are? Everything else like that. So on this sheet, you can see item number 1 is just simply the C major scale. So we're going to do a 2-5-1 in C major today. We're going to talk about why it works, but then we're going to get into playing it. Always getting into playing. Okay, so we start off with this major scale. Let me play it for you. So the idea is, if we're going to do a progression in a given key, we have to decide not only what key, are we in C or are we in C sharp, but what is the tonality? Now this may sound kind of silly. Which major tonality are we in? There's actually more than just the major scale. There's other major tonalities. We need to decide. Now this is always presumed, right? And it's these presumptions that get us into trouble. So let's go back to the beginning and talk about it. There are many scales or tonalities that we would call major. The augmented scale, this crazy scale, it's a major scale. It's got a major third and a major seventh. The Lydian scale, there are quite a few of them. So we're going to use the Ionian scale, also called the major scale, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is going to be our basic tonality. Sounds pretty simple. When we get into minor, it's not quite that simple. So that's why we're doing it this way today. So now, looking back at the sheet, what I did in item number 2 is built diatonic seventh chords on each one of the scale degrees. So in other words, I piled up notes, piled up thirds, 1, 3, 5, 7, on every root of the major scale. In other words, I want to see what chords exist in nature in the major scale. So what I mean is no one's saying they have to be anything. King Louis didn't decree that the minor chord should be 2 and the 5 chord should be dominant. It's science. It comes out of our decision to use the major scale as our point of departure. So not that we necessarily have to play these. I love playing diatonic sevenths, but I'll just play item number 2 for you. So those are the chords that come out of a major scale. Turns out the first chord, now this is item number 3 on the sheet. The first chord is major 7. So we would say a 1 chord in a major key. Turns out it's major 7th. No one said it should be major 7th. It is major 7th. The scale works that way, right? The scale, C, E, G, B, those are the notes we get. And now after the fact, we analyze them and go, oh, it's a major 7 chord. So we look at number 2, built on the root of D here. It turns out a 2 chord in the key of C major is minor. It is a D minor chord. No one said it should be. It is. D, F, A, C When you analyze it, we determine there's a minor third and a flat seven and a natural fifth in there. So two chords are minor. We would have to do something unnatural to them to have them not be minor. So we go up to the three chord. It is minor. This is news to some of us out there, and this is sort of old hat to some of us out there. That's okay. The four chord is major seven. The five chord, lo and behold, is a dominant seven chord. Now, five chords are very important. They turn out to be dominant seventh chords. The sixth chord is A minor. The quality is always minor. The chord built on the sixth of any major scale is always minor. The seventh is now half diminished. That's just what it turns out to be. And of course, when we get to the octave, it's C major seven again. Okay, so that's where those chord qualities come from. They weren't mysteriously, somebody said they should be that way, right? So now this idea of a 2-5-1. So now over time, we could get into philosophical discussions of where that exact chord progression came from, the subdominant to dominant to tonic function. Sure, if you want to get a music theory degree, you can. You don't need to, though. I've got those degrees, and you don't need to have studied that stuff to be playing good jazz. You don't have to. So the two chord is minor. The five chord is dominant. The one chord is major. So that's what we see on the sheet, item number 4. So the 2-5-1 progression. So, I'm a self-proclaimed smart guy. And there was a chunk of time when I had heard about 2-5-1s, but I didn't quite know why is the two chord dominant sometime and why is it minor most of the time. Why are dominant chords always dominant? Why are five chords always dominant? Why can't they be major seven? That kind of thing, right? So now we have a better sense. Those chords come from inside the scale that we chose. And again, this information maybe isn't earth-shattering to some of us, but this understanding, we're going to use this exact same approach next video in minor, and I think a lot of us are going to be get woken up a little bit with that. So now the question would be, what do we do with this stuff? So as far as I'm concerned, you've maybe seen my scales suck videos where I'm saying I'm not such a fan of, we could play the Dorian scale on the 2 chord. We could play the Mixolydian scale on the 5 chord. We could play the Ionian scale on the 1 chord. A scale approach. And so that's what I did right there. And sure, when I start on the roots, maybe we can hear a 2-5-1 progression. But these would be all correct notes if I do this. That was very good playing over a 2-5-1. That would have sounded great if I had a band playing behind me. But could you hear the chords in what I was doing? Absolutely not. Was there any harmonic content? No. There was that could have been an interesting melody, let's say, if I had a ton of help from the harmonic people behind me. So what I ask for all my friends who are singing or playing melodic instruments, and that includes piano and guitar, is to play lines that imply the harmony. In other words, when you're a piano, you don't get to comp with your left hand. You play this right hand alone, or you play octaves, left and right hand. So let me now not use scales. I'm going to use the arpeggios. In other words, I'm only allowing myself 1, 3, 5, and 7 on each chord. So when I'm going to play the D minor chord, I'm only allowing myself D, F, A, C. Those 4 notes. Now when I go to the 5 chord, I'm only allowing myself 1, 3, 5, 7. In this instance, the G, the B, the D, and the F. And displacing octaves and whatever else. I can repeat the notes, right? When I get to the 1 chord, C, E, G, or B. So I'm only allowing myself the chord. All right, so now the exercise. Here's the part that I want you to do. So that was all sort of getting caught up with this approach to understanding why the chords are the quality they are. Okay, so now what I want you to do is play this in time. I'm going to play the 2 chord, then the 5 chord, then the 1 chord, play the 1 chord again. I'm going to make a 4-measure phrase. 2 chord, 5 chord, 1 chord, 1 chord. Now, is this going to be the most smoking jazz and bebop you've ever heard? Not exactly, because I'm only allowing myself the 4 chord tones. No passing tones, no chromatics, no altered this or that. That said, so is it going to be a Grammy-winning solo? Probably not. Is it going to be the world's most correct solo ever played? Yes, quite possibly. You should be able to hear these chords in what I'm playing. Let me give this a try. So 1, 2, 3. All right, anybody gonna yell at me about that last note? The very last note, I ended on the 9th scale degree of the major chord. But I nailed every other one. I didn't make any mental slips, I don't think. And that's hard to do. This is challenging for folks who are just getting into 2/5s, this idea about really limiting yourself. And that's a big part of my teaching. In whatever I'm teaching, I love limitations, putting limitations on ourselves and making ourselves be creative within those limitations, okay? So that's what was going on there. Tons of limitations. And now I'll say for an advanced player, like me, I'll call myself advanced, I guess. I've done this with grad students a lot. And man, this is harder for them than the beginning cats because they have so much fancy vocabulary, they want to play it, right? It's hard to not play the muscle memory stuff and the fast licks and all the stuff I have under my fingers. I'm forced to deal with very simple components and actually make some music out of it. So I'm a firm believer that this kind of practice is very, very helpful for advanced players. I've heard stories of friends listening to Michael Brecker practice back in the day, and he would practice like this always, learning every song. I heard those stories firsthand from people. So yes, this can work for you too. And by the way, Jazzwire, I've been talking to you guys about Jazzwire a little bit, launching November 1st, 2018. My point here is that a lot of folks from these videos will send me questions wanting me to expand on something that I mentioned. Or that I went a little quickly and what did you mean when you said such and such? Or hey, I think you forgot to mention such and such. All sorts of great stuff. Now with Jazzwire, that's where we get to blow these concepts up. A 10-minute video on 251s, clearly there's more to it than that, right? So at Jazzwire, that website that I love you guys to be a part of, that's where we get to dig in really deeply. It's going to be really very personalized kind of stuff. So anyway, I hope you'll consider that. Now, as I was saying, the next video, number 49, it's going to be digging deeper number 49. We're going to go through this process with minor 251s. And I've run across, again, really good playing university students, grad students, professional musicians who have this weird rubber banded together sort of knowledge of what a minor 2/5 is. And they have a hard time explaining what they're doing. And not that we have to explain everything always, but if you want some clarity of thought, try explaining it and you'll see how well you know something. So I'm really excited to dig into the minor 251 version. We're going to be talking about the song Autumn Leaves as well, applying what we did this week, adding what we do next week, and then we have so many jazz songs. Autumn Leaves, for instance, is a great one. So I hope this was interesting, and I challenge you to try this stuff. Some of you may think, yeah, blah, blah, whatever, I know this. Give it a try, and let me know how it goes. Can you do this? Can you do it in the other 11 keys? Can you do it at tempo? Can you do it with a great even sound? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So thank you for tuning in to Digging Deeper Jazz, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Always feel free to send me an email, by the way, for the PDF. write me at diggingdeeperjazz@gmail.com. I'd love to send you this PDF or any of the previous ones. Take care, you guys. Practice hard. See you next time.